High in the Rocky Mountains sits Yellowstone Lake, 340 square kilometers of cold water, 2,358 meters above the sea. And it is full of trout, which is strange, because for most of the last 14,000 years, no fish should have been able to get in. Here is the obvious way in. Water leaves the lake as the Yellowstone River and runs north toward the Missouri. So a fish from the plains should simply be able to swim up it. Let us measure that climb. Reading elevation for every reach of the river, one after another. Over the first 118 kilometers downstream of the lake, the Yellowstone falls 837 meters. And it does not fall gently. 57 kilometers below the lake, the profile does this. In a single reach, 90 meters of river, the water drops 54 meters straight down. That is the lower falls of the Yellowstone, a wall of falling water taller than a 20-story building. No trout climbs that. The front door is locked, and it has been locked since the canyon was cut. So where did the fish come from? The trout in Yellowstone Lake are cutthroat trout, and their closest relatives do not live downstream at all. They live on the other side of the Continental Divide, in the Snake River, water that drains to the Pacific Ocean, which should make them unreachable. Different ocean, different world. Unless there is another door. 60 kilometers south of the lake, at a place called Two Ocean Pass, a single creek arrives at the Continental Divide and splits in two. One arm becomes Pacific Creek. The other becomes Atlantic Creek. The pass is so flat that in the spring of a wet year, the meadow floods and the two creeks join. For a few weeks, a fish can swim across the spine of the continent and follow each arm all the way to the sea, and the scale of that split becomes clear. The left arm runs 2,200 kilometers to the Pacific. The right arm runs 5,500 kilometers to the Gulf of Mexico, 2.5 times farther, on the opposite side of the continent. Two raindrops, a few steps apart, ending oceans apart. But our trout is not headed for either ocean. And now trace what waits on the far side. From the pass, down Atlantic Creek, into the upper Yellowstone River, and north into the lake, 95 kilometers. We measured the elevation of every reach along it. The largest climb a fish faces on that entire route is 0 meters. It is downhill the whole way, because the back door opens above the falls, inside the locked room. That is the accepted explanation for the trout. After the glaciers retreated, roughly 14,000 years ago, cutthroat trout from the Pacific side crossed at Two Ocean Pass and settled the upper Yellowstone. For thousands of years afterwards, they were the only trout in the lake. An entire fishery, and the grizzlies, eagles, and otters that feed on it, resting on one flooded meadow. But a door does not care which way you walk through it. Today, Yellowstone Lake holds lake trout, an invasive predator that has driven the native cutthroat into steep decline. They were long assumed to have been dumped there by people. Then researchers publishing with the United States Geological Survey raised an alternative, that lake trout may have arrived the same way the cutthroat did, over Two Ocean Pass, from the Snake River side. That idea is a hypothesis, not a settled fact. But if it holds, the door that gave Yellowstone its trout is the same door taking them away. Every measurement of water in this story, the 837-meter climb, the 54-meter wall, the 95-kilometer route that never once goes uphill, came from one public dataset that maps every stream in the country. The fish were the mystery. The landscape held the answer.